Great. Thank you, everyone. I hope you're having a not so manic Monday, but Mondays are always crazy. This is Lisa Redamozo. I'm not going to go on camera. I am literally phoning it in since stuff happened this morning, but I didn't want to miss this meeting or have a chance to talk to y'all or answer any of your questions because we will not be able to have a session next week. I'll be jury duty. I can't get out of it. So hopefully I can get out of it after that first day, but I got to drive all the way in and can't be here next weekend. So a week next Monday. So I wanted to make sure we met. I do have Leah and Donna with me here, guiding me through. We're going to share their screen and I'm going to take questions and try to give you some answers. I want to start off by saying that I have no new information. I've been kind of crazy this morning since I guess 9 a.m. I have not received any other information at all. But please let me know if some of y'all attended policy seminar or know if somebody who went to policy seminar. Could you let us know in the chat? Which remember, we have the chat and we also have the Q&A open. If you all have heard anything at all about what they talked about, I'm sure it was talked about during the policy seminar, but I'm kind of out of it there. Um, Someone else has said I'm on jury duty next week as well. That means the competition will open then. Yeah, that's probably right. It probably will come out next Monday. Here's Lisa. I'm speculating that with my luck, the RFP will come out on the 23rd, right? It's got to come out soon. Let's see. We got some chat here. I went, and the only thing we were fighting for was being released March 17th. Okay, interesting. I wonder why the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, but okay, the 17th. I went to policy. Our number one question was for Congress to urge the release by 3/17. Spring break is next week for us. The college closes. So, of course, it'll be next week, right? Hey, all things are lining up for it to happen, yeah, probably next week on the 23rd, right? I'm thinking, interesting. I was at policy, no new news, strong commitment to advocate for on the 17th. Can anyone tell me why the 17th? Maybe I missed something. What's the deal on the 17th? What was because that's what tomorrow, Tuesday the 17th. Anybody know why? Just wondering. My turn to ask the questions, Jessica, right? I want to know why are they talking about the 17th? I mean, you would think it'd be sooner already than that, but the concern is right that they need to get these read. Was there any talk about different kind of readers or the competition itself? Or I think people are just worried about getting the RFP released that maybe they didn't talk about who would be reading. COE stated needs to be released ASAP. If released on the 3/17, due by 4/17, okay. The first late, okay, got it. Would be released by September 28th. Got it. Okay, so that's why they're pushing. Obviously, I was just thinking the 17th had a particular date versus the 20th meeting versus the 23rd. But yeah, that's already kicking into September 28th, and our budgets run out what? August 31st. Trio Day, yeah, okay, that's Trio Day, Louisiana. Okay, great. Okay, thank you for filling me in on that information. I spent this weekend finalizing all my sections, the need section, objectives, I did those last. Everything else I have ready to go. The only thing I haven't really touched is the competitive preference priorities, but everything else has been uh, gone through my DEI check to make sure there's no trigger words. This time around, if it's an established program, I'm going ahead and putting it in present tense. I used to do everything in the future, like will do this, will do that. The reason I'm doing that is because I lost points last time. And those of you that have been with me for a long time, you know this, but I put in the applicant and community support that the project director will get letters of commitment from the target schools and will have them on file. And do you know I lost 2 points because I said will and the reader said I should have already had them. So because of that, I'm going ahead and put everything in the present tense. Nothing proposed, everything is going on. Maybe when I talk about my internal goals, internal goals in the evaluation plan, I did leave the word will achieve this, throughout, the first, second, third, fourth, fifth year. But everywhere else, it's present tense because I don't want to lose that point again over something as silly as that. Well, of course, I'm going to have the letters of commitment. But, I don't want to give anybody any reason to do that. I also made sure I looked at the budget again. I wanted to simplify the budget. A lot of our budgets are complicated, right? We have different names for different positions. Um, and, when we do a real budget, it has to be complicated. But I urge you, I beg you for the proposal budget to make that budget as simple as possible. Use simple titles in the budget that match the titles that you're going to use in the proposal's quality of personnel, in the plan of operation. Make sure everything matches, okay? Um, uh, and when you get refunded and you do your real budget, then you can be complicated and have all these other positions like a graduate assistant or whatever, or technology specialist, those kind of things. But you want to keep it simple because the more layers of staff you have, the more your quality of personnel is going to be longer, and the more you'll have to force mention of those positions within the plan of operation and possibly the evaluation plan. So keep it simple so it's a quick read is what I've been having to go back and forth and double check. On that. I'm also making sure that when I do my budget, I break it down the staff travel for both, and goes for both Talent Search and EOC, where I go ahead and make sure when it's student travel, that I break it down to the cost per participant to attend, and I include the things there that are going to cover transportation, meals, lodging, if applicable. And if I say I'm taking 25 students and 5 staff, or 25 students and 3 staff, to 4 of these trips, I break it down and I go ahead and stick with the college and career field trips. I'm staying away from any cultural trips, even though I know I could in reality. When I do my real budget and this proposal budget, I'm keeping everything college and career related. And I have a cost for participant and how many field trips, okay, and what the breakdown is or what the items are, transportation, lodging, any admissions fees, if anything. That's if you have any money at all left in student travel, after you make sure to include the salaries that you expect to be paying out in 26, 27, and bumping up that fringe benefit rate so that you have enough to pay your staff, because that's your number one resource, your commodity. You're nothing without having enough people to identify, recruit, and serve these students. So make sure you have that covered. And then everything else is just, that's 85% of your budget. And, so if you don't have any money or very little money for student travel, so be it. Okay, that's just the way it is. Okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions? Any questions? Come on, y'all. This is your chance to ask me anything and everything about Talent Search or EOC, and I can try to answer to the best of my ability. Besides, I cannot predict when this is going to happen. We're lucky if we have a month to work on it. I would say 3 weeks, which really means 2 weeks when you have to get everything into your college and route it through the system there. Okay, I'll keep talking until we have some questions. On the needs section, I'll start from the very top. For both EOC and Talent Search, keep your description of your target area. Start right away. Target area description should be the first thing a reader sees on page 1 of your narrative, okay, of the needs section. Your abstract, which is separate, is where you talk about the college or the agency, and you've got a little bit of room to talk about that. But when you get into the needs section, page 1, it should say the very first line, after you put the question, target area description, and give me no more than 2 paragraphs at the most, half a page about your target area. Where you're located, is it rural, urban? If it's rural, how far away it is from a major city that I would, know, kind of get an idea where you're at. tell me based on census very briefly, no charts, just in parentheses, or just throw out some numbers and put source in parentheses, the population, the number, how big your target area is, the breakdown, the ethnic breakdown of the area. These are facts. You're not showing favoritism or preference. And then put in where how many school districts or target schools you're dealing with that fit into the target area, and then finally end it with just in a sentence, say, this talent search project of X, Y, and Z, or EOC project of X, Y, and Z will serve this number of students or participants either living in this target area or attending the following 5, 4, 6, 10 target schools, and just briefly list them, the target schools. And then we can start with the first actual question. The proposal is the number of families that are low income in the target area. Okay, so we're not going to go on pages and pages. If I have to go to page 3 to look for the answer to the first question, that's not going to be a good read. Okay, so on your target school, on your target area, that's where you might want to explain that it's made up of 6 census tracts within the city of Fort Worth, or 3 counties, or 4 cities within 2 counties that equal the 1 target area. No matter how big or how small your target area is, we all just have 1 target area, even if it's made up of a bunch of sub areas. And yes, on your spreadsheet, you break it down on a spreadsheet to all these different census tracts or cities and all that, whatever. But when you go after, you tell the reader in the very beginning that this 1 target area consists of X, Y, and Z, whatever those ingredients are, from this point forward, you just refer to it as the 1 target area in all the tables that you compare to county, state, or national rates to show how it's doing worse. Okay, you have to show that need, right? But I'm not going to show the reader the need for every sub area. I've already done that and averaged it out on my spreadsheet. The one exception to that is when we talk about the target school data. Okay, so we do have some questions here. I think I have some in the chat, and I'll ask if we have any of the Q&A, but let's see. In the budget, when we're listing salaries, do we need to list each salary separately, or can we lump them together? Great question. So if you've got 3 or 2 advisors, and let's say they're getting paid in reality, one's a lead advisor or one is a student specialist level 2 versus a level 1, and in reality they get paid differently because maybe one's been there longer than the other, or maybe one of them has a bigger, whatever. I would, on the proposal, just simplify and say 2 advisors at the same amount that equals that dollar amount that you're going to have to pay out. See what I'm saying? So if I've got 3 advisors, they're each making, I'm just making up a number, y'all. Don't go crazy. Let's say I put 40,000, okay? Just making up. So I would put what? I would have the total 120, and I would have 3 advisors, at the breakdown divided the 120, 40,000 each. Okay. Hope I did that right. I can't see it, so I'm just visualizing in my brain. Even though in reality, maybe that one gets paid more than the other. Okay. So you see how I simplified that? Right. So I hope that answered your question, but you want to make it simple because it's not your real budget. Even if you begged and pleaded for the department or your program specialist to accept this budget as your real budget, they won't. They will have to have you redo a separate budget for you to go ahead, and that's where you do your real budget. And that's where you can list everybody individually, all their different, their specific rates. And that's what I would do. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question. So let's see the next one. So yeah, I would lump it together, but divide it by 3 and act like they all get paid the same amount. Will I do another training after RFP release for those who have paid for it? Yes, I will be doing another training. As soon as the RFP comes out, we actually just talked about that last week. We will let you know when we're having it, it'll be recorded. So if you can't make it, you'll have access to it. So yes, if you already paid for it, you'll have access. If you've not paid for it, this is your time to break down and pay for it. And I will do I'll go briefly through every single section. If there's been a change, of course, spend more time on that. And I think the focus will be on the CPPs for sure. Okay, so yes, the minute that comes out, even if we have to, we'll get it out to y'all. And even if you can't make the live version, you'll be able to get the link to look at it. Let's see. The data in my needs section is close to my state average, not showing great need. Can I pull up my TS students? I'm currently showing to show a greater difference in post-secondary enrollment and rigor. That's what I did for my SSS grant, but I didn't know if you could do that for Talent Search. Sure, that's a great idea. So the issue here is that there's not a lot of difference between the baseline that's for the schools, I believe, when it comes to, post-secondary enrollment and the rigorous secondary school program of study. You probably are struggling in all those areas, like even the persistence table and regular graduation. In addition to these two things, I would recommend, if you can, that would be better. It would be best for you to pull out your Talent Search students because they have been served. It's just that it's been difficult to do. And yes, for SSS, it's easier because you can control that environment, right? Institutional research, the whole SSS proposal is for SSS is to show that there's a difference between students enrolled at the one college that are SSS eligible versus those that are not. Okay, if you can do that, Jessica, if you can do that with your Talent Search students, by all means, but I would recommend then you do it for every single table, not just the ones where you're showing there's a problem. There's not showing needs. So go back to the persistence and run it just by, remove your students from the mix. And it would be those that are Talent Search eligible but not served. That's would be their label. Talent Search eligible but not served students, compare their rate against, something to compare it to show the need. But I would not just do it in some of the tables. If you can, I would do it in all the tables. So yes, that's preferred. That's the best way to do it. It's just so difficult to do, right? If you can do that, awesome. That's what I would do if I could do it. This is a continuing talent search. What is the process to reduce the number served in target schools? Is there an impact on the new grant? Okay, so we're all going for new funding, but the difference is if you're a continuation grant, you've got one big advantage or should have one big advantage compared to everybody else. And that advantage is that you've got some prior experience points. Even if you have one darn prior experience point, you're a winner, okay? Of course, you want to try to get as much as you can. And if you've been around for a while, hopefully you have 15 points. But even if you have 1 point going in, but this is the deal, you can't reduce your number served. If you're continuation, the only way you can do that is if you cut your budget. So you can ask to serve less students, but there's going to be a formula. If you look back at the RFP for and this is for EOC as well, for 2021, where it talks about the budget, it tells you if you're continuing, this is the formula you need to use, or you go at whatever your last budget was, for example, for 25, 26, and the same number of students. So I believe what's going to happen, is they're going to say, look, if you're currently funded, whatever you're getting today, this year in 25, 26, to serve the number of students you were told you needed to serve on your GAN, excluding any carryover, you can't count that, just whatever you were supposed to get, your base amount, excluding any carryover, and the number of students you have to serve, that's what you have to maintain in the first year of the next proposal. You have to stick to that same rate. If you want to reduce your numbers, then whatever the math is, where you take your budget and divide it by the total number of students you're serving, if you want to go down by 100 students, then you have to reduce your budget by that cost to serve 100 students. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't keep the same amount of money and go down in numbers. Okay, so if you're going to go down, you have to be willing to give up some money as well. Okay, now people have told me, well, we want to serve more students. You cannot serve more students and if you're going for new funding, which all my, my best wishes on getting new funding straight out of the bat. I don't think it's going to happen. You're going to have to wait a while to find out, in the funding band, because you don't have any points going to the competition, even if it's a perfect score. You're maxed out right now at the 500 at, I want to double check the amount, but you can't ask to serve any more than 500 on the dollar amount they're giving you. And those are you continuing, you either stay the same level funding, basically, with the same number of students, or you could reduce your numbers. Okay. But you'd have to lose money. On the target school situation, there, you have to be very careful. The regulations, or, actually not the regulations, the RFP has stated that you need to keep substantially the same number of target schools, but keep the same number of target schools. Okay. Substantially the same has been defined by COE, not me. They've said it. And for those of you that attended their workshop lately, I have not. They always used to say when they came to that part that they would recommend 51%, not 50%, but 51%. So if you have 8 target schools right now listed for y'all currently, I can't go down to 4 because that's just 50%. I want to be at 51% or higher of this to say I have substantially the same number of target schools. So I can go from 8 to 5 if I have to. I would not go to 4. I would go to 5 because that's more than, 51% to keep the 5. And the reason I don't want to go below that number is because I want to be able to, I don't want to lose my prior experience points. Because if you go and totally revamp your target area and say, oh, this area has no more need, I'm just going to go over here and with my target schools and just pick up a whole bunch of new target schools, because you haven't kept substantially the same number, 51% or higher, of your original number of target schools that the department has listed for you, you could lose all your prior experience points. So you'd basically be writing for a new grant. Okay. So that's the kind of the answer there. Do you have any in the Q&A? Oh yeah, we have some. I'm get to that. I can see it now. Okay. Can you go over the persistence rates again? I think I remember you saying something about not using cohort. Yes, just want some clarification. Thank you. Okay. So talent search. Think of your objectives, right? You will have to have the baseline for all those objectives that we have. We have 5 objectives. One of them is on persistence, right? This number of students that stay in school and go on to the next grade level. Okay, so that's in the next following year. So that's not really a cohort, except a cohort from one year to the next, right? So for example, if you have data now, and again, we're having some of our clients update their data if they have new data, but let's say from 23-24 school year, the students that were enrolled there, how many of them came back for 25-26? Now, some of y'all may not have that data from one year to the next. So maybe you have to go with 23-24 students that were enrolled there that came back and went on to the next grade level for 24-25, whatever. If it's the latest available data, you state that under the table. This is the latest available data, complete data, and it was compiled on March 16th, 2026, meaning I double checked to make sure it was the latest available data here in 2026. See how I did that? I'm using 24, possibly 23, 24, 24, 25 data, but I'm putting there that I checked it on March 16th, 2026, okay? Just to make sure the readers don't say, oh, that's old data. Well, you know what? That's as recent as I have, and I checked it in 2026. Okay, so I'm very defensive about that, if you could tell, and I want to make sure I don't have somebody who, is just looking purely at the dates and not realizing that I checked it at that time. So persistence is supposed to be from one year to the next, okay? Now, we've had issues with that, so you've heard me say, look, I've had to throw in a couple of Hail Mary additional characteristics to that, like at a certain grade level. I'm sorry, at a certain GPA, or a B or higher, to make there be a need. Or like Jessica was saying, hey, I'm just going to run it for talent search eligible but not served and pull out my talent search students. That's perfectly fine. You could just let the reader know there in the definition under the table. Would I make a big deal about it? No, but I would, full disclosure, have it listed there. Okay, now we'll get to the graduation table. Okay, that's not persistence, one year to the next, right? The persistence table is where we get in trouble because the way the question is asked in the needs section, we may get full points for it in the needs section, but guess where you're going to lose the points if you don't give the reader the baseline, the correct baseline for the objective. Because our objective for both graduation objectives, graduation with regular and graduation with rigorous secondary school program of study. Remember when we did our APR, they asked us just about our 12th graders. How many 12th graders graduated with a regular diploma? That was one of the objectives. And then the other one was like, how many 12th graders? Same 12th graders, but now they wanted to know how many of them graduated with the rigorous secondary school program of study completed. 12th graders. So it's very sneaky. And for so many years, I didn't even realize that I was being pretty much set up in the needs section. Because in the needs section, I gave them the cohort, which graduation rate, which is from the ninth to 12th grade cohort graduation rate to show a need, right? Because over the course of 4 years, look at the low graduation rate for both the regular diploma and the rigorous. Look how low that was. Well, you can still do it for the needs section to answer part of that question, but it cannot be your complete answer anymore. That used to be my complete answer. Let me show you, reader, how bad it is from students from the 9th to the 12th grade. Because that's what you're asking. You're asking for graduation. You didn't specifically say cohort versus just 12th graders, right? They don't ask for that. Where I got hit was in the objective section. So when I was telling the reader in the objective section, here's the baseline for how many students graduated with a regular diploma only at the target schools, and this is why it's at this percentage. So this is why I'm going to do this percent. Ambitious yet attainable, that whole thing. You know what the reader said? The reader said, oh, no, I can't give you any points for this objective at all because you never gave me the correct baseline. You gave me baseline for everybody from the 9th to 12th grade. And this objective is from 12th grade in the fall to 12th grade in the spring, the same year, not even a cohort. So I can't determine if this objective that you told me is ambitious yet attainable because you never gave me the correct baseline. And I was like, ain't that a you-know-what? And it's like you get mad, but then you're like, I really can't get mad at them because they're absolutely right. I just got lucky all these years. So I learned from that mistake, and they got me again in the next objective, in the objective section about the number of 12th graders that graduate having completed with a regular diploma, having completed a rigorous secondary school program of study. Same thing. In the objective section, I told them, well, this is the baseline for, the cohort from 9th to, I didn't even say cohort 9th to 12th, but what I didn't tell them is that I didn't give them. They were absolutely right. I never gave the readers the correct baseline of 12th graders from the fall of the 12th grade year to their spring of their 12th grade year, how many graduated with a rigorous secondary school program of study. Because that's how we do our objectives. So I learned from that. I want you to learn from that. I want you to now in your needs section, when you talk about those two tables on regular graduation with a regular diploma and graduation with a rigorous, that you go ahead and start your answer to the question by telling the reader, this is what it is for 12th grade to 12th grade for regular. But then you could also supplement, more alarming is how bad it is regular diploma if somebody is from the 9th to the 12th grade. That should be a lower rate because it's a longer period of time. But I've answered the question, how I know, and label it as the baseline so that when we get to the objective section, it matches. So I now have to give them two tables. The first table I give them is specific to 12th grade graduation only for regular. And then I say more alarming is the 9th to 12th grade cohort graduation rate. Okay, but the baseline I say is on that first table. Then when I get to the rigorous graduation, the same thing. I now have to give them two tables. Okay, or at least the one table on the 12th grade graduation with rigorous, and then add a bullet. If I have room, another table, but I could condense that table into a sentence saying more alarming is the graduation rate for the 9th through 12th grade, the cohort and for the rigorous secondary school program of study. But the baseline has to be on that higher, on the 12th grade. And so it's a struggle to do that. So Jessica, your idea about pulling out your 12th graders, your talent search kids is a really good one because it's actually being more accurate. To say, look, when I take out my talent search students have received services, here's the rate. And that's why we struggle more now to show the need and persistence and in graduation with regular and graduation with rigorous, because we have to provide the data for 12th graders only, not for a course of 4 years. Okay, so I answered that live. Let's see here. My target area is the whole county. We're in Miami-Dade, a very large county with some very rich areas and low income areas. Should I narrow it down to target neighborhoods so I can be more focused? Yes, you must. That's like saying Dallas County, Tarrant County here where I'm at. I could never show the need because in Tarrant County, we've got Fort Worth, we've got Grapevine, we've got, South Lake. No way. No way. So you need to do it by, not even cities. I mean, if anything, you could say you're serving 2 or 3 cities within the county of Miami-Dade, but your target area cannot be the whole county. You've got to bring it down. And even within, like in Fort Worth, I couldn't even serve the whole city. I had to use census tracts within the city. So our target area was, we served, 8 or 9 or 12 census tracts located within the city of Fort Worth. So yes, yes, you're an EOC. That's too big. You look, pull out a map, and where all the poorest or the poor cities are. Even within the city, there's going to be a census tract. So you describe, maybe you're across 26 or 32 census tracts located throughout, Miami-Dade County, but it really consists of those number of census tracts that have a high percentage of low income and folks that do not have a bachelor's degree or have a very high, very low educational attainment levels, which makes up your one target area. Okay. It's been the whole county for over 20 years, but again, it used to be better to serve a whole county for some reason in the past, but you can't show the need. It's watered down the need. And in reality, you probably are not going to every single city or county, and you're not under any obligation if you say that you are serving sub areas within, that the total sum of those sub areas, is equal to your one target area. So you could say that, now you have a different description of your target area. You're serving census tracts within a county. So your target area is no longer the whole county. Okay. So let's see here. Answer live. Where we can find all the questions in the RFP. Okay, so in the RFP, I'm not even sure what page it's on. I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to ask either Leah or Donna to look, or even Mary Alice, if you could find in the RFP for both. Let's look at Talent Search or EOC. They tend to be on the same page, I think, because they're almost identical. But there's a section where it starts talking about the secretary determines funding or something like that, selection criteria, and they have all the questions there. We also have them in our Google Drive. If you go into the EOC or the Talent Search folder, I believe we might have, we definitely have it there, the RFP, and I believe we actually have, and maybe I'm confusing myself with the proposal writing workshop, but we have copy and pasted each section into separate places, but I think that's in the grant writing workshop. But I'll have somebody put in the chat the exact page numbers where those questions are in the RFP. But you could pull it up and just do a search and do a search for selection criteria, and right there and then you'll be able to get it. Okay. All right. So let's see. I have 5 zip codes. Are you saying that at the beginning I mentioned the zip codes and list them as my target area? Well, actually, you know what? The census is not by zip code. The census is by census tract, which is better because I know in the zip code that I live in right now, if I did it by my zip code to try to find need, I wouldn't be able to. There's no way. But within my zip code, there's a census tract. I know where we have Section 8 housing in this zip code, and I could focus on that area and the target schools in that area. Okay, so it's not really the zip codes, my dear, it's the census tracts. And yes, you could list them very briefly. The reader doesn't care, but at least it's like you're at the very beginning saying, look, and this I'm paraphrasing, right? But like I'm talking to you, look, I do have one target area, but it just so happens to be not the whole city of Austin. It's actually in the northwest or the east. It's in East Austin, and it's in the neighborhoods of whatever, whatever. And in parentheses, I would put census tract, whatever, you know, so that pretty much is my one target area. Okay. But I would not bring up zip codes. Okay. I would not bring up zip codes. Briefly, just in passing, in parentheses, the census tracts. It's more important that you list out your target schools that are within that one target area that's made up of those census tracts. Okay. So you see, I'm not saying I'm serving the whole city. I'm not saying I'm serving 5 zip codes within the city. I'm more, I want to get across to the reader that for, in our case, the target area is made up of 5 or 6 census tracts, parentheses, the number if you want to, located in that consists of neighborhoods within inner city Fort Worth, the north side, east side, south side. These neighborhoods have high income, these neighborhoods have a high percentage of low income families. And have high percentages of individuals who do not have a bachelor's degree. Okay. And so that's the deal. So zip codes are not the way to go. Census tracts are better than zip codes. Okay. Let me see here. Answer live. I have a banked year. Okay. A banked year is when you, well, it happened years ago when they used to give grants a whole extra year of funding. Before, we used to be 4 years. And they said, oh no, your grant scored so great in the top 10%, you've actually earned yourself a whole 5th year, a banked year. Okay, sounds great, right? But really, a banked year only kicks in a way, its biggest advantage is that if for some reason you don't get funded, then at least you have another whole year of funding reserved. Okay, that's really the only advantage there. I was forward funded for 26, 27. Do you think I can spend down since I have the money for next year? Okay, so you're not on your last year budget. Everyone else is trying to spend, but I would urge, remember last time I was like, I don't know. I would put at least make sure you have at least a month, because someone here was talking about, well, if we're lucky, we'll get notified by September 28th. Well, hello, your budget runs out in August unless you save some money. And yes, I know we're not supposed to be allowed to carry over money. They call it a one-time no cost extension, and that's what they did with EOC the last time around. When EOC took forever to get notified, they said, hey, EOC is not a problem. Just, we're going to allow you to ask for a one-time no cost extension. So whatever funds you have that you would have had left over to give back to the department, not give back, but not to utilize, guess what? We're going to let you keep using that money into the new year. Okay. And people were like, thanks, but no thanks, because I didn't have that money I didn't have any surplus anyway, or thanks for telling me at the last minute because I purposely spent money because I didn't think I could keep it, right? So yes, you're not supposed to, for those of you that are on your last year of funding, which is the majority of us, you want to end up with $1, right? That you didn't utilize. But this is a unique situation where we may be in a situation where we run out of money because they might not let us know now until mid or end of September. So that's what I'm saying. I would save at least a month's worth of salary and not use it. And so even if miracles happen and I find out we're refunded, and it's still all good. People say, well, you lost a whole month, all that month money you didn't get to use. So be it. But what if I had to use it, right? I'd rather be in a situation where I said, oh, you know what? Here's, some money that I didn't end up using. I know I can't take it into the new year, but I had it here just in case we didn't get funded in time. That's not a big deal to me. It's not a big deal to me to save that money. If I have to give that money back, I'm cool with that. Rather than spending down like crazy, so I end up with no money, I'm not going to do that this time around. Okay, so on you, who is on a specific to a banked year, if anybody out there is banked in both EOC or Talent Search, which means this is not your last year of funding, you have another year of funding. So you can, in my case, in your case, I would be trying to spend down this year's funding because I know that I have money that'll kick in up for one more year, right? So I'm cool with that. But, at any time, the Department of Ed could decide, on discretionary funding, they could say, oh, you had carryover and you have another year's money. Oh, you know what? We're not going to let you keep carryover. I mean, carryover is not automatic, even from year to year, from one year, from the second year to third year. We have to ask permission to utilize that carryover. So I don't know. Things are so crazy right now. In the past, I know if you're in your situation, I would try to spend my money down because I'm supposed to have money, right, waiting for me in 26, 27. But if I had any carryover, maybe they won't let me take it into the next year. I'm not sure. So sorry about that, but I'm not sure. But I would definitely try to spend my money down if I'm a banked year. If I'm not a banked year, like most of y'all are, I would be cautious and I would try to keep 1 month of salary saved just in case. For our needs section, if our free reduced rate at some of our target schools are lower than the state average, but the district is well above, will we be okay if everything else shows need? Well, again, for Talent Search, the question is the first question, you have two parts to that first question, but if there's an or. So if you want to, in this situation, Cindy, if you can show in the first part of their question where they say a high percentage of low-income families in the target area, if you've got that covered with the census, then you can downplay because it says or. I like to, double down on it, right? Say, oh, we have so many low-income families, plus look at how it is at the target schools, right? You don't have that. So what I would do is bank on talking about the first part of the question for sure. But then I would also say more alarming, I would just give the reader the average. An average of blah, blah, blah students at all the target schools are on free or reduced lunch compared to state or national rates. So you see how I did that? When I did the average, and I purposely didn't list every single school because I didn't want to lose a point. So I banked on, but I had to show need in the first part. Now, some of y'all may be in a situation where you don't show need in the first part of the question, the percentage of families and the high percentage of families in the target area do not have a, show a need. Then I have to bank on detailing at each target school how bad it is. So Cindy, you can get around that. Just show the average for that second part of the question because you do show the need in the first part. Okay. And then did you say the latest available data under the chart or in the narrative? Under the chart. I always put that. Please note this is the latest available data for each comparison area because you may have different dates, right, for different areas because they're not all on the same time frame. Okay, so let's see that here. Done. Okay. I have a school in my target area that changed names. Will this be a problem? Not a problem as long as their NCES code, I think that's what it is, NCES, is their ID still the same? Because they usually ask for that in the program profile. So the name change is not a problem as long as their number has not changed. Okay, but you want to check that out, okay? Okay, so let's see. I have a school, okay, that name change, nope. Okay, so answer live, that's done. Okay, EOC, the high school dropout rate improved for 24-25 versus 23-24. I included it last time in the need, but I'm unsure about the 24-25 numbers. Do I need it since EOC is an adult-focused program? Should I just use the 23-24 data? Okay, so again, when we look at your objectives, you do have an objective about how many students you're going to try to get into, dropout students that get a GED. So that's the baseline we're looking at. I'm trying to see how you might want to avoid it. But you know what? It doesn't matter if it improved. But the question is, Sharon, when you use the 24-25, is it no longer showing need when you compare the high school dropout rate to state or national levels? If it still shows a need, even though it improved, I'm not going to bring it up that it improved from last year. The question is it still showing a need? And to me, a need is at least 5 percentage points difference. Okay. Are you still doing worse than that? So I would ask you on that. I wouldn't use just the 20 through 24 data because it's not the latest available data, unless I totally ignored it and not brought it up. But I think you're going to be stuck having to mention it. So the question is, I don't care if it improved from one year to the next. Even the latest information, is it still showing a need when compare it to state or national rates? Okay, that's the real question. Okay. And let's see here. Okay, done. And okay, so thanks, Mary Alice, for finding that out. Okay, I think I've answered all those questions. Anything else y'all see, ladies? Because I have a hard stop in 2 minutes. Sorry, y'all.
I don't.
Anything else? Could y'all hear me okay that whole time? Shocked.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
This one in the
We have
chat.
some things here. Let me see here. Okay, I have a couple questions. Schools merging happened to me right before. Yep. Yeah, you want to make sure you could always, yes, by all means, you could contact your program officer, but I do know if the numbers stay the same and let them know. Also, if you want to do that ahead of time. We had two schools combined, so I documented my PO approval when submitting the APR. Yes, it's you have a lot more flexibility or can communicate a lot more when these things happen mid-cycle. Some people have told me, well, they're going to do a drastic change 2 years from now. This is going to be changed and that school's merging. I said, hey, don't worry about it till it happens. Right now, are the target school names still the same? Do they still have the same number right now? I don't care if it's going to happen on September 10th. As you're writing it, when you submit it, leave it alone. You could dish that out later. Now, if something has happened right now with a name change or an NCES number has changed, you might want to communicate with someone. And of course, if you've got already so many target schools, and even if for some crazy reason there was a miscommunication, if it's just one school and it's not even threatening your 51% to keep the same, then you're going to be cool anyway. Okay. Let's see here. All right, y'all. I think we answered all those questions. I hope you found this to be helpful, though we're doing it in a different kind of format. Great questions, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll have the recording ready by tomorrow afternoon. And the minute I hear something, I'll post something about it, blog post, and we'll get the information out about when we're going to do a follow-up proposal writing workshop to cover those things that are different from what we talked about before. Okay. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Donna. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Mary Alice. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, we won't have a session next week. Hope to be back on track the following week. But in the meantime, good luck and be checking our blog post, our posting, because I will let you know the minute I hear something or what's going down. And if you could let me know as well, if you find something out, please send me an email. Okay. Appreciate y'all. Have a great week. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.